Today, we are thrilled to speak to Danielle Nicholson, CEO of Mira Intel, a company building the future of infrastructure monitoring for risk management and climate resiliency planning. Danielle is a seasoned attorney, startup advisor, and venture partner with deep expertise in AI, blockchain, and emerging technologies, who has been working with early-stage founders in the United States and globally for the past 6 years. Danielle is the founder and CEO of Mira Intel, a company leveraging drone-borne infrastructure monitoring to provide key insights and data analytics for risk management and climate resiliency planning. Beyond her executive roles, Danielle actively contributes to building inclusive tech ecosystems, having worked with organizations including the Knowledge House, Robin Hood Foundation, and the Black Innovation Alliance. Danielle, welcome to the Climate Quest. We are excited to have you here to talk about climate, technology, and your really inspiring journey to founding Mira Intel.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Great. So, Danielle, maybe you can start off by introducing yourself quickly and sharing with us how you got into the climate space.
Yes, so I am a native New Yorker, one of the rare native New Yorkers born and raised in the South Bronx. Which unfortunately is known not necessarily for all the most wonderful things. Growing up, there was a lack of tree coverage, poor air quality, a lot of those problems that still exist. So sustainability has always been something that's been important to me. Climate action is something that's always been important to me. I started my career, as you mentioned, off as an attorney working in the regulatory compliance space in the later part of my career working with larger tech startups. And so I started wondering what I can do to really make an impact on a larger level. So after I left the law firm, I worked briefly at the UN. And since then, I've been working with early stage startups a lot in the sustainability and climate space, working on helping them excel. And then I decided to get in the game myself as a founder, saw an opportunity and I took it.
Amazing. And you must have seen a lot of other startups and opportunities. And I think you're one of the founders who already had more experience and more understanding of the market. So can you share with us how you spotted the opportunity for Mira Intel and how you decided on doing exactly what you're doing?
Yes. So again, I saw that there was a studio and accelerator. It's called the Massachusetts Climate Tech Studio. And originally they were looking for entrepreneurs, people who had an entrepreneurial business background, who had industry experience, to look at a lot of technologies that have been funded by the US government. So technologies that have been funded previously by the DOE, Department of Energy, by NSF, National Science Foundation. So there were already technologies that had been kind of deemed innovative and deemed to have a really great large potential for climate action. And so again, when I saw that opportunity, I said, this is another way for me to lend my expertise and experience. It just so happened that I met my co-founder in the studio. We had a look at several different technologies. And when we came upon the patented tech that forms the basis of Mira, we said, okay, this is it. Let's do it.
Amazing. Yeah. That sounds really cool to meet your co-founder in such a cool environment. And how can you share with us how the technology works? Of course, not in the details that are protected,
Yes.
but in terms of what Mira Intel does in detail.
Yes. So again, the technology, we are a hardware software solution. The hardware solution comes from a university in Massachusetts, and it's a camera system that allows us to detect cracks, damages, and misalignments within 5 millimeters of accuracy. And so my co-founder is a software engineer, and together we're building the software component. So we're taking all of the insights that we gather from the hardware solution, we put them into our proprietary AI software, and we're then able to deliver predictive analytics on how those damages will evolve over time, as well as integrating climate intelligence, taking into account where the structure is located, what is the climate forecast for that area, to really give insights into kind of predicting what the structure is going to do and what asset managers and governments should do to protect that infrastructure.
Great. So who are your first customers right now that you're targeting?
Yes. So the first customer per se is actually a pilot that we're doing this May, which is next month. It sounds crazy because it's closer than it seems. And it's going to be at Governor's Island. So we are one of the challenge winners. The Trust for Governor's Island put out a call for innovative technologies that they wanted to pilot. And our attack was one that they chose. So we'll be starting next month, piloting in May and demoing live in June. No worries there.
Fantastic.
No
That is
pressure.
amazing.
No pressure.
No pressure. Okay, that sounds amazing. That sounds amazing. And I mean, I know you're still like you're starting off, but maybe there already have been challenges in developing your product and finding the market fit, like reaching this like persona of customers. So can you walk us through that a little bit?
Yes. We also have another pilot that we're going to be doing in Massachusetts with a public institution, a large public institution. It's not quite public yet, but that'll be coming out shortly. And I think the challenges we've faced so far is like any other startup, the asset managers want to know kind of what's in it for me. I think, solving climate issues is always, people will say that it's important, and I believe that they think it is, but business decisions are always going to be business decisions when you're asking someone to pay for something. And so for us, the reason why we're focused so much early on pilots is that we really want to prove out what our technology is capable of doing so that we can make that value proposition really, really clear. And I think that for any startup, whether it's climate or not, that's always going to be the biggest challenge is, can
Mhm.
you convince the people that you're trying to sell to that it's something they should buy? So we have
Yeah.
that same challenge.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I think that will resonate with a lot of founders or aspirational founders that that's like the main challenge. I wanted to ask whether so far you mentioned the accelerator, the program,
Mhm.
how you met your founder. Was there anything else that was especially helpful in getting you to where you are now?
Yes, I mean, I've been really grateful. Like I said, we started out at the Massachusetts Climate Tech Studio. Shout out to Sharon Bort. She runs the program. She's from FedTech. So the studio was a joint initiative between FedTech and the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center. Also, shout out to my coach in the program, Victoria Piscini. They both have been tremendous even after the program is over. So that's been really great, as well as we're one of the founder fellows through New York City's Economic Development Corporation. So we're currently being incubated right now at New Lab, and that's a whole another level in terms of meeting other founders, other members who have far more experience than us, who have kind of done a lot of this work that we're just trying to start out doing.
I would love to double click on the balance between profitability and climate impact in your business model. So, especially in the area you're targeting, there is frequently this misconception that anything climate related is a nice to have. How are you navigating that narrative and actually building something that drives not only climate impact, but also the bottom line impact?
Yes, I mean, I can only speak for Mira Intel, but I know there are a lot of other companies that are similar to us where utilizing our technology actually does save money. It's not just a nice to have. There really is cost savings that is built into it. And how we've been able to get certain pilot partners on board so far is showing them like how our scans have been able to you know, produce cost savings for the asset managers. So I think if we actually look down to it, there's a lot of savings, whether it's money or whether it's resources that a lot of these technologies will bring. It's really just how you are able to tell the story. And also understanding that in climate, maybe those savings are not instantaneous. Those savings a lot of times will come over time. And I think that's also maybe something that's a little bit more challenging than other industries in that, if it's a larger upfront investment sometimes for a lot of these solutions. But if you look at the numbers, they really do provide savings and pay for themselves tenfold over time.
How are you measuring success for your company? I know you're very early on, so
Yes.
just having the pilots and having things to test is already a huge win. But as a North Star, what are you hoping to accomplish with Mira Intel?
For us at this stage, we're really just making our customers happy. Again, I think that's it's still comes down to the fundamentals. The people that you're working with are they finding your product or service useful? Are they seeing the value in what you've been able to give them? Are they really excited to tell other people about what you're doing? We found that in some of the earlier pilots we did in Massachusetts, our former pilot partners have been like the biggest supporters and the biggest way we've been able to bring in other people. And so, happy customers who really appreciated and enjoyed working with you, again, are always going to be fundamentals in any space.
Absolutely. How should folks select what to work on? So you had this buffet of solutions and it sounded
Yes.
like you did all your diligence. Would you take the same approach, or do you have a point of view on how folks could navigate this?
I think for myself, and I think for anyone really, it has to be something you're passionate about. I mean, understanding again, it's a long, long arc, especially in climate. And so if you're selling something, people will know if you're passionate about it or not. And those days get longer and longer, the less excited you are. So definitely picking something that you really believe in, as well as picking something that you've thoroughly investigated. I know a lot of founders who are PhDs, who are students, and they're passionate about their startups because that's what they've been working on for the past 5 years. Like that's what they love. That's what they loved, whether it was a startup or whether it was just an academic research project. They fell in love with what they were doing. And I think that always translates when you're trying to talk to other people, when you're trying to convince people to pilot your technology, to purchase your technology, that enthusiasm comes through.
Yeah, definitely. And it also helps in those dark moments when you're not sure
Yes,
about what you're doing with your life. The passion
yes,
helps write that out. What
it
would you
does.
do differently if you had to do it over again?
I can't say that I would do anything differently per se. I would say the advice I would give is also kind of balancing that passion with being pragmatic, with really taking the time to do due diligence in the market, making sure that that's where the studio was very advantageous, making sure and forcing you to take that time into seeing who are the other players in the market, what are the other technologies that might not be similar to yours, but can produce similar results. Doing all of that customer research and the stakeholder discovery, speaking to potential clients before you've even emerged as a company. I think that's a step that a lot of people may skip because they're so excited about doing the thing that they don't look at the business side of it. But in that preparation before you start a company and do that thing just gives you a much better foundation, because when you're talking to potential clients, potential customers, you know already what's out in the market. Potentially people they may have already spoken to. You have a great understanding of how to price your product or service, and that's going to be important as well if you want to make money and be competitive.
What
Yeah.
is really interesting with your story is that you had quite a bit of exposure to other startups before you started. How do you think that informed your journey as a founder?
I think what that did is it reminded me that a company is a company. And I think again, that's where a lot of people, and climate is something that people should be passionate about. Finding these solutions are not just about making money or having a successful company. It's our collective action is really how any change is going to happen. But at the end of the day, the change can't happen if you have no money. In order to have and in order to have money, you have to have a solid business. And so that was one of the things that I was really fortunate to have, is that solid foundation, and making sure again that you're able to do the work, and making sure that you have a solid business plan, you have a solid analysis of just the market in general, what your customers would want, what they're currently using now, how you can convince them to use you instead of these other people, and how you convince them to try something novel. I think like what I've seen in the studio as well as other startups I've worked with, there's some amazing new things happening, and some of it I think is above people's heads. It's almost a little too complex for people to understand. So even just breaking it down into something very simple and making sure that you're presenting what you're doing as just a very simple product service that just so happens to transform the world. That's just
Yeah,
the side thing.
the best of all worlds. What were some of the resources, tools, or networks that helped you along the way? You mentioned a couple of great studios and accelerators. Is there anything else that you think could be helpful for people to dive into?
I would say a lot of people, especially in the entrepreneurs that are in the climate space, should look at government programs. You do have a lot of states who are doing some amazing things, particularly in climate, because so much of the progress that's happening happens on a local and state level. And so, like I mentioned, Mass EEC was great. I'm part of the Climate Tech Expertise Network, which is facilitated by Columbia, but funded by NYSERDA, which is the New York State agency. And so I would say for anyone that's in the climate space as a young entrepreneur, they should really look to these state and local resources that are out there, because there are not just money, but resources in terms of coaches, mentors, programs that they can join that are really helpful.
Amazing. Danielle, before we wrap up, what is next for you and Mira? You already alluded to the pilot, maybe any other reflections on what you're excited about the next months. This is a time that's pretty gloomy for a lot of people, so we're always looking for some silver lining in terms of some good things that are going on.
Yeah, so we can't announce any other major products now or major locations, but we are in talks with two other cities. And the bright light, I think, in all of what's happening now is that when one side kind of goes away, one supporter, usually there is another supporter that steps up. And I've been seeing that a lot of cities have been stepping up because, again, when there's climate difficulties, it's going to be the local cities and communities that actually really feel the brunt of extreme weather impact. And so we've seen that a lot of local cities are kind of raising their hand and saying, okay, come show us what you can do. We're kind of sort of interested, let us know. And so for us, that's what we're really excited about is the conversations that we're having with some of the larger cities that are interested in piloting our technology.
Great. Thank you. The local government, the cities stepping up is a nice way to end this episode and to give as a tip for other people to look for as support. So Danielle, thank you so much. It's been a
Thank
great,
you.
great conversation. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank
Thank you
you,
for having
Danielle.
me. Thank you.